week here, getting close to a lot of shopping and things like that. We're going to talk about increasing the revenue for your dispensary. I've been in and out of discussions with different dispensary owners this past few weeks, and I wanted to kind of hit on specifically for dispensaries some thoughts and considerations about increasing your revenue during this time period, and even things you can do, a little bit later in the year and throughout all different times of the year. Actually, it's not just for the holiday season, but since we're in that time of people spending, let's talk about it. So I'll let the room fill up here. We'll take a few moments. If you're watching the replay, go skip ahead a few minutes here, and we'll get started maybe in 30 seconds here. All right. And if you're watching, drop in where you're watching from, what vertical you're in, what state, what everything you're in. Let's know what's going on here. I'd love to know who we're chatting with so I can make this as valuable as possible for you. Nike says on here, great channel. Hey, thank you very much. I'm glad that we can provide this kind of value for you guys. I want to make sure that everybody is prepared. There's so much new things happening in the industry, or so many new things happening in the industry. It's hard to keep your hands on it. But I wanted to give you some tips and tactics today to, again, increase the revenue for your cannabis dispensary. So with that, kind of frame set and mindset here, I just want to let you know before we get started, the information contained in this presentation is meant for guidance purposes only and not meant as professional, legal, or tax advice. And further, it does not give any personalized legal, tax, investment, or any business advice in general. So again, today we're going to talk about how to increase the revenue for your cannabis dispensary by using what we call impulse buying, or leveraging the mechanics of impulse buying. Now, why are we talking about this? There's a lot of purchases happening during the holiday season. It's the end of the year, and all cannabis businesses want to make more money. All dispensaries, all deliveries want to make more money. And as you know, cannabis is very easy to sell. It usually sells itself, and you can accidentally make a lot of money in this industry, but you can make a lot more money if you come with a plan. So with that, let's hop in to our topic today, which is increasing the revenue by leveraging impulse buying. Now, you may be asking, what is impulse buying? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. An impulse purchase or an impulse buy is an unplanned decision to buy a product or service, but product in this case here, made just before a purchase, right? They're already going to be making, or they're already in a store, but they buy more than they actually need, or things of that nature. Now, it's spur of the moment purchase. It's not really, very thoughtful. Again, impulsive behaviors. Now, when more impulse purchases happen, more revenue comes to your business, and hopefully more profit is generated for your cannabis business, right? Think about it. Revenue is simply the number of customers times your average transaction. Now, it's sometimes harder to get more customers through the door. There's a lot of options for customers to go and buy their cannabis, but it's much, much easier to get a little bit more money out of each customer. But just by going and just using a little bit of psychology to make sure that you're actually increasing that revenue per customer, or increasing your average ticket size. Now, what causes this type of buying behavior in your clients? Now, our culture, well, specifically here in the United States, people from around the world could be watching, but in our culture, in most cultures, Western culture for sure, consumption enables us to kind of succumb to temptation and purchase something without really considering the consequences of why we are buying that, or what happens when we actually buy that, right? Sometimes you look at your credit card bill and you're like, oh man, I cannot believe I spent all that money on that thing, right? Sometimes the excitement of buying it is more exciting than actually having the item, right? This is just something that happens here. Now, you've been in the dispensary, they're exciting, there's colors, there's sounds, people are chatting, music, shapes, marketing materials everywhere, and product that is just amazing to look at. It's everywhere, right? It's an amazing experience to walk into some of these dispensaries, and this can all lead to temptation. Now, you have to understand, and you have to use this ethically. You must be ethical when you run a business, especially in the cannabis industry, right? Bud tenders are granted an incredible amount of trust by the consumer, right? They export their trust, hoping that you give them the right product for what they're looking for, and you don't rip them off, and you don't take advantage of that trust. Now, again, don't abuse this trust to the extent that it hurts the customer and ultimately will hurt your business, right? Don't be conniving and pushy, be helpful, be suggestive. All right. Now, there's 4 reasons I'm going to cover here of why people actually, impulsively buy, and then I'll talk about how you can actually leverage each of these emotions or triggers in your cannabis business to increase your revenue and increase your profit. And just to start off with some context to what the four things are that I'm going to talk about, they're essentially emotions or things that happen inside of us that compel us to actually buy. We are emotionally driven. We, as humans, our thoughts lead to our emotions, and those lead to actions. And we buy on emotions and then rationalize that after the fact. It's just how most humans are hardwired. Not all of them, most of them, but it's just how humans act. Now, the first reason that people impulsively buy is simply out of pure enjoyment. They want to bring joy to their lives, right? We tend to pick up things in the store that make us happy. The thought of an immediate pure pleasure can be insanely powerful to the consumer, particularly when we're stressed out, which is right now for pretty much everybody in the planet, right? Getting something new or getting yourself a treat as a pick-me-up on a bad day, it adds spice to a boring day, and it can be a very, very strong incentive to purchase. Now, how do you implement enjoyment into that cannabis purchase, okay? Do you have any new or novel products that come through the door, right? It's very often that you see new products come to the shelves, or people want to, hey, can you carry my product in your dispensary? Can you carry it for your delivery? You may say, hey, I got to charge a slotting fee, or I don't have enough room. Well, maybe you do for something that looks really cool, but it may not be the best one, or you want to test it out. Bring some of those in there and then show them off and talk about their immediate benefits to the end user, and then suggest that this new product could be a pick-me-up that they've been looking for. You have to emotionally read your client. If they look like they're having a crappy day, maybe suggesting a product could be an easy way to increase this penny profit and increase that average ticket size in your cannabis business. All right. So enjoyment is the first reason that people make impulse purchases, make themselves happy, essentially. Now, the second reason that people make impulse purchases is called loss aversion, essentially the desire to avoid missing out on something good. Now, how often do you fall for this, right? I've done it lots and lots of times, right? The buy two, get one free, or the limited time price drop deals. You see them all the time, right? The idea that we're actually going to be getting more of the same amount, or more of the same product for the same amount spent, it speaks to most people, right? You want to save money, and you don't want to lose out on that opportunity to avoid loss, avoid losing out on this deal. Even we're not, in the time when you're there, you're not going in with the mindset to save money. Maybe you go in and I have a budget of $50 and all I'm going to do is spend my $50, or I want to just get an eighth, or I just want to buy a half ounce or an ounce, but then you thinking, hey, I spot a bargain, I see it, 20% off, even 5% off can be compelling. You see that sign and suddenly you just felt like, I need to get more of this, right? Because I don't want to lose out on this deal. This happens because our brain can often get fooled by the idea that something may be a good deal. And who doesn't want to get a good deal, right? Everybody loves getting a good deal. Now, how do you implement this in your cannabis business, right? This is probably one of the easier ones, but I want to give some real specific details on here, okay? One thing you can do is create a deal on gift cards, right? One of the kind of common deals you see in restaurants or in other places is the buy $100 in gift card and then get $20 in a free gift card, right? So you see this a lot in restaurants, right? I've worked in QSR restaurants in the corporate side, in the finance, and this is one of our best deals. Buy a certain amount and then get a certain amount free. Usually it's 50 or 100. I would say try to make it at least the size of one average transaction. So in a dispensary, that's between 60 and 80 bucks. You may want to do that, maybe 50 and get 10 free, or 100 and get 20 free, or maybe buy 500 and get 100 free. However you want to do that. But one thing you can do is suggest the use cases of that last $20 gift card. You could say, hey, it's a free gift that you can give to a friend who then becomes a new customer to you as a client. As a dispensary, is a new client for you, right? Suggest that they give that card to somebody as a gift. Now, it can also be, tell them, hey, you're going to spend this money anyway. You might just save on future purchases that you were going to already make. So it's kind of a way for you to bring capital in, for them to have some kind of credit, and they get more than they're actually going to be buying. Then it kind of compounds over time where they buy more product with deals. Use that gift card to buy product that are on deals, and it just kind of creates this cycle where they begin to fall in love with your business. Now, another one is to create deals that actually have names. Now you see like Veterans Day sale or blah, blah, blah sale, Memorial Day sale. Create your own type of unique name, or just create the holiday season deal, which means that it's for a limited amount of time and the deal is going to look delicious to them, right? Make sure it's a good incentive, not like 3% off, but something that like the buy two, get one 50% off, right? 50% off sounds like a great deal to people. But when you think about it, when they're getting one for 50% off, right? So it's 3 total pieces of product here, and then one of them is 25 or 50% off. Essentially, you're going to have to divide that half or that percentage off by 3. So essentially only a 15% off deal, but they have to hit a threshold to get that deal. Now, this is really, really awesome. I think it's a great idea. You see it, it works well. How do I know it works well? Because retailers use this all the time, and they use it year after year after year. As a marketer and as a salesperson, you wouldn't continue to use the same tactic if it's not helpful for your business. Now, this is going to lead us to the next one, right? Buying in bulk, right? The need to stockpile. This is the third reason that people make impulse purchases. Now, as a species, as humans, as people, the fear of running out of resources is very real to us. And we have a tendency to stock up on things that we think we should have. And as if it's not presented to us a million times this year so far, people are stockpiling the craziest stuff. Like, why the hell you need 50 rolls of toilet paper? But hey, to each their own. I don't want to get too detailed into that. But at any rate, you can see this working in real time. People want to stockpile. You even saw Cannabis. When we started doing our monthly updates, we started talking about the dynamics of, sheltering in place, essentially. And what did people do? They stockpiled product. They bought a lot of product. People thought that was going to be the trend, constantly going. Of course, it didn't stay like that. It's unsustainable. Growth of 100 or 200% in average ticket size is not sustainable. So it started to level out. Now we're going to go into another upswing potentially, or you just start to leverage kind of that thought process, like, hey, you should stockpile. Why, come back more often than you have to? Now, how can you implement this stockpiling mentality in your cannabis dispensary? Well, first, promote a deal on larger quantities of product. This sounds obvious, but when you talk to the client, just offering this stuff to them, because sometimes they come in, they don't want to be tricked into something or this or that, but you can be a good person, have a conversation with them those first 30 to 45 seconds as they come up to the counter and say, hey, here are 3 deals on larger quantities of product here. I want to tell you about them before we get started with our interaction today. And it's like, here's what the deal is for a half ounce, a deal for an ounce, and, or whatever, things of that nature. Now, even better for you as the business is that offer this on slow moving inventory so that you can turn that inventory quicker and then reduce the age of your inventory. No one likes old product. So make sure if you get something that's hitting kind of that 20, 25 day mark, that you start to move that product at a cheaper rate, right? Get it out, because at some point you're gonna have to discount it incredibly, and that's not really where you wanna be. Now, you could also suggest that they buy more, again, so they don't have to come back as often, because who knows, maybe they're not as disciplined with their stockpile and they go through it quicker and then they come back just as often. Now they're into the kind of groove of buying a little bit more every time they come. You're kind of inching them up as they come back and back and back. If you have the right kind of CRM or the right POS system, right, customer relationship management or point of sale system, you'll be able to look back on their product history, their purchase history, and say, hey, Mikey, last time you came in, you bought 2 8s, one of Jack Herrera and then one of Blue Dream. Would you like to maybe double the size of your purchase today? Just by suggesting it, it at least gets their mind into the consideration portion of that. Now, another idea is to offer double stamps on their reward card if they purchase a certain amount of product, but it has to be that higher threshold of product, right? So make sure you have something built into your POS system that gives them that double points, or if it's a stamp card, make sure that the bud tender or whoever's checking them out, because it's not always the bud tender that checks out the client. Make sure they know to do double stamps if they hit a certain threshold, whether that's a dollar amount or amount of product, right? Usually you'd want to do it on an amount of product, but hey, there's many different options. You can test it out. Now, the fourth reason that people do impulse buys is a biased evaluation of use, right? Most people are optimistic about their abilities. We are all convinced that we can, our eyes are bigger than our belly, right? We can eat all the food that we buy, but we still throw groceries away that we get. Or that we can wear every item of clothing that we buy, but certain things just sit in the closet and you wear the same 6 t-shirts or same 6 outfits every week. Or, we're going to use all the different household items that we pick up and we just don't use all of those, right? We overestimate how much we can actually use. And it doesn't really matter if we're told that this is going to happen, that we're not going to use it all. We're still optimistic and we still buy all of that. Now, how do you implement or leverage this in your cannabis dispensary? Essentially, creating bundle deals is a good way to increase your revenue for your cannabis dispensary, right? High value deals can include a lot more cannabis at the same price point, right? More. That is the goal. Sell more product, increase your revenue, and sell more cannabis per purchase. Now, on the other side of this, instead of just selling more cannabis, like specifically if they're going to buy one product, selling more of that one product, is to bundle a variety of products up together, right? Some cannabis flower, some cannabis edibles, new rolling papers, a new grinder, an upgraded rolling tray, storage containers, heck, even a t-shirt, something like that, stickers, you never know. There's so many options on ways you can bundle things up. And a really cool way to do it is that if it comes in a nice container, right? Something that they can reuse later, like a nice craft paper looking box, instead of just, a paper craft bag that gets thrown out, something they can keep, and you can brand that box so that it sits around the house. And now you have, marketing materials essentially living inside your client's house for them to see, their family to see, and for their friends to see. Now, if you have questions, drop your questions into the chat here. I'll answer any questions. I have some other sales tips for cannabis dispensaries, but just wanted to kind of, get your pulse if you have any questions, or, it could be related about, hey, anything cannabis business related. It could be about what we're talking about now with impulse buying. It can be about other sales tactics, how to increase revenue, things of that nature, or whatever you'd like to talk about. So drop your questions in if you have questions. If not, I'm going to keep going here with some other sales tips, and I'll jump and look at the, let me look here, nothing here. Nike's from Dallas, Texas. Good to see you. And then we have Lakeisha here from Oklahoma. Nice to see you guys. Thank you for joining in. Let's go ahead and I want to jump into just maybe 2 or 3 more additional sales tips to think about during this holiday season and any other season when you're trying to make more money for your cannabis dispensary, right? I think number 1 is one that I see really often. It's implemented extremely well at stores like Big Lots, at even at grocery stores, right? You got to put your client through, and this depends on the layout of your cannabis dispensary operation, but you put clients essentially through an aisle or a walkway at the end of the checkout. Also, Michael's does a really good job of this too. They pretty much sell you things that you don't need because you're sitting there waiting in line. So you go to grab something because your interest is piqued and you're bored, and maybe you're not allowed to use your phone inside the dispensary, right? So you can kind of create this, almost a shoot where they look at things like accessories, snacks, which are complimentary. Hey, when you consume cannabis, you kind of get hungry or thirsty. So maybe there's a way to grab snacks, or like things like, memorabilia, or not memorabilia, what do you call it? Apparel, right? T-shirts, wristbands, some kind of jewelry, even stickers, things of that nature. This can help increase what we call penny profit for your business. These are impulse buys as they walk through and wait, and then they can go ahead and, increase your profit, increase your revenue. Now, another one here is to suggest other products from your online ordering delivery system. When you are checking out, last night I was ordering a pizza, and as I was going through the online ordering process, there was always a thing to suggest, like, hey, upsize your pizza, or add extra sauce, or do you like, a dessert, things of that nature. So when you have your online ordering system, if you have that, or even in person, right, your bud tender, you want to always ask if they're gonna, want something else, right? Just simply asking, because no matter what, there will always be a certain percentage of people who will simply say yes, no matter what. And if you don't ask, you will not get that revenue. And one thing is to try to make these complementary to the specific purchase they have. For example, if they buy cannabis flower, suggest that they get these new upgraded cannabis storage containers to keep their cannabis fresh, or offer the double of the amount of the cannabis for 50% off that additional price, right? Say an eighth is $50, they can add another eighth for $25, right? Things of that nature. Now, it doesn't have to tie that well specifically to the purchase, but it could lead to more. You just have to do a test and see what helps you to increase revenue and to increase purchases. Now, also another one here is adding a list of deals in the waiting area. And don't have 100 deals. Try to create 2, 3, maybe 5 deals. Because when you have too many options, right? When you walk into a dispensary, sometimes there's so much product, it creates analysis paralysis or choice paralysis where they don't know what they want to buy because they're so fearful of making a purchase that they're going to buy the wrong product. So when you create deals, try to limit the amount of deals or bracket your deals into the level of flower that you have, right? This stuff seems very obvious because you see it in dispensaries, but some people just don't understand the psychology behind some of these sales tactics here for increasing your revenue. So again, break it down. Maybe your high level, top shelf, kind of sewer flower gets this kind of deal. Your mid shelf is this, or your lower shelf is this. And then edibles are like buy 5, get 2 free type of thing, right? Simple kind of deals, 1 per type of product or 1 per level of product. That can really help you increase your revenue as a cannabis dispensary. All right. So let's go ahead and see if there's any questions here. If you have any questions, drop them into the chat here and we'll go ahead and get those answered. If not, we can sign off here. I just want to check. I don't see anything here. I'll wait around for maybe 35, 45 more seconds. Cool. All right. Tax time. Tax question here. She says, so Lakeisha says she knows about 280E, but is there a way for her to deduct her initial startup investment? She's her first year filing, and thank you for the topic at hand as well. Perfect. Okay. So if you are a dispensary, it says here, okay. Now, there are a few kind of things that you can do to deduct your initial startup costs. It's going to depend. So for everybody, it depends on your vertical. Now, dispensaries have a lot less leeway with 280E. Your hands are pretty tied because you're not actually making product on your own. So, but there are certain things, depending on where your improvements or tenant improvements are going to be at, you can write those off, right? For example, where you bottle flower in the back or do inventory control, if you do some very high upgrades on that, you may be able to, deduct those. But again, this is on a case-by-case basis. So generally, again, dispensaries have very low ability to write off expenses on 280E, especially their initial startup expenses. But depending on how your entity structure is set up, for example, if you have a real estate entity and then the dispensary is not, it's a non-plant touching real estate entity. Essentially, that place rents the dispensary location or owns it, and then they go ahead and they lease it to the dispensary license holding company. That real estate group has a lot more leeway, and they're likely not tied as close to 280E, which, hey, if they do all the tenant improvements in the build out, they can surely write off a lot of those costs. But again, it depends on your entity structure. If it's all under one entity, you may not have as much leeway. You may not be able to write off as much. But Lakeisha, I would say reach out to us. Go to our website at greengrowcpas.com. There's a little green button on there. It says get started. Click on that. Go ahead, sign up, meet with our team. You can chat with Adam or Jason or Sean or anybody else on our team, and then you can go ahead and see how they can help you out and kind of walk you through that nuanced process a little bit more. Hopefully that answers your question. But again, reach out to us because it's very, very detailed specifically on your business. But I'm very happy to see it's your first year filing. I will put one more on here for Lakeisha and for everybody else. If this is your first year filing, you 100% should reach out to us. We're doing this thing called year-end tax planning, which every business should do. We want to walk you through that process because their first year offers you 2 outcomes: really get kicked in the teeth or really set yourself up for success that second year. And when taxes close at the end of this year at December 31st, right? When the books close, that's it. We can't help you anymore. So reach out to us, see how we can help you out with your tax planning. Maybe it's spend a lot more money or save a lot more money, things of that nature. You should really look into reaching out to us for that year-end tax planning. Now, Nike says here, how much did it cost to open a dispensary in Colorado? Okay, so Colorado, I don't know the specific details on to the dollar amount, but I would say Colorado is going to be between 750,000 to 1.5 million. Now, this depends on a wide range. It could go up to 5 million. It all depends on a lot of different factors. First, where are you located at, right? Real estate is a prime cost of a dispensary. If you're somewhere in Vail, hey, it's going to be pretty expensive probably. But if you're like out in the middle of nowhere, it's probably going to be a lot less cost for either acquiring that building or acquiring a lease for that building. So that's number one. Also, it's dependent on how much of the licensing process can you do on your own. Do you understand all the regulations enough to write all of your own SOPs, which are standard operating procedures, so that you don't have to hire someone out for that? That can be pretty expensive. The whole lawyer thing with getting them to do this and that, and then you have to get a security plan. You got to pay for this and pay for that. Now, building on that, there are certain building regulations, and especially with Colorado cannabis, lots of cameras, lots of infrastructure things that you need to do. And these are capital intensive things, especially if you buy or build from the ground up, especially if you build from like a vanilla box or a flat pad, and you have to build things up. It can be very, very expensive, but that's that there. Also product, right? Product is a very big prime cost, obviously, and you need to have a certain amount on hand to get started. But one thing that's really big that people don't think about when they start a business is operating capital for those first 6 months. Think about your personal budget, for example, right? If you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's really, really stressful. But if you have 6 or 8 months worth of bill money sitting in your savings account, this kind of cloud leaves you and you don't have to worry about that. But okay, so how much does it run a dispensary every month? Maybe it's $30,000 or $50,000 just in operating capital. Maybe it's $100,000, and you got to keep 6 months of that on hand. That's $500K, $300,000. You never know how much. Depends again on that. That's one thing that most people don't keep in their budget. They're just like, well, we'll figure it out. But if you hit a snag, say, product goes bad, for example, or something happens where, you have to have money on hand, a hot water heater breaks or whatever. There's so many things that can go wrong. If you don't have that contingency capital or that emergency fund, you could essentially kill your business before it gets off the ground. It's just barely hovering over the floor, trying to get it 100 feet off the ground. At 12 feet, boom, it's gone, just because of one or two issues that compound over time. So, I know that's not going to be the answer you're really looking for, but hey, you could reach out to us. We call a pro forma financial statement, where our CFO team will take the time, go in, use all the different resources that we have. There's this thing called Cannabis Benchmarks. We have the MJ Biz Daily Fact Book that we subscribe to, and you can go through and you can learn about all those details. We build out a very, very robust pro forma financial model to help you understand, all of the costs, right? Insurance costs, people costs, build out costs, right? Legal costs, other professional services, labor costs, how do you say, where you're buying in, benefits for your employees and things of that nature, right? Banking fees. If you're in a place where banking fees are expensive, sometimes it costs, thousands of dollars to have a bank account on a recurring basis. So, reach out to us. We can help you walk through and understand pro forma financial statements. And again, the cost of opening a dispensary in Colorado, in California, in Oklahoma. I will say, I think the sleeper market, I say this in every live stream, Oklahoma is essentially the cheapest market anywhere to open up a dispensary. Cheap land, incredibly cheap licensing. I think it's $2,500 for a license. Maybe it's up to $10,000 now, but it's $2,500 to get that license as long as you meet the requirements, residency requirements, certain other requirements. It's not very hard to get a dispensary license in Oklahoma. What I will say is, if it's not hard to get that, is if you go to Oklahoma, I was there 2 times this past year. It's amazing, right? There is, like, when you drive by, there's like tons of dispensaries. There are more dispensaries than McDonald's, I think, there. It's like really cool. This is what the future looks like. A real, true free market. Let the market do its thing. What I like about the cheap, dispensaries and the cheap licensing is that this is truly a social equity program. When you look at a program like Los Angeles, Illinois, and other places, great. They have social equity licensing. Essentially what that means is they earmark a certain amount of licenses that go to people that have been disproportionately affected by the war on drugs. But guess what? Those people are likely not well capitalized. They have to go now essentially sell part of their business to someone who has money so that they can go through the licensing process and open this up. That doesn't seem very equitable to me. When you get something like, hey, it's only $2,500 to open a dispensary, that gives everyone a very fair chance at opening up their dispensary or opening up their manufacturing business or opening up their cultivation facility. It's an amazing thing when you let the market decide who is the best operator and the best entrepreneur in the space, and not favoring people that have a lot of money like these other markets, right? Opening up a dispensary in LA, $1 million minimum, and that's shoestring budget, and you know what you're doing, and you're not going to make those mistakes because this is your 7th location you're opening up, and you're now coming into the Los Angeles market. So just a few hot takes there on, cost and things of that nature. But any more questions, drop them down into the chat here. I love answering these questions. I think it's a great thing to kind of spitball ideas, and there's a lot of people actually in this room, so hopefully you guys are finding this valuable here. But drop questions in. I'll wait around for a little bit more. All right. We're on multiple platforms now. This is good. We're on the YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. I think we're on Periscope too. Lots of different channels here. It's great to see people tuning in from all the different channels here. If you're not, subscribed on any of our channels, look up Green Growth CPAs and type the word YouTube. Green Growth CPAs Facebook, Green Growth CPAs Twitter, Instagram, especially our Instagram. Lexi's been doing an amazing job. Hop on there. There's a lot of great content. As you know, our YouTube content is very long, a lot going on there. So Lexi breaks down our content into even smaller micro bite-sized content that you can get a lot of value from every day. So go ahead and check that out. But I don't see any further questions here. So again, thank you for taking the time to join in for our live stream. If you have any questions about improving the financial performance of your cannabis business, getting licensed for your cannabis business or your future cannabis business, selling your cannabis business, buying a business or buying a license, then please reach out to us via our website at greengrowthcpas.com. Click that Get Started button, fill out the form. You can even schedule a time right away to speak with one of our team members, get that booked, and then we'll give you a call. Or give us a call at 800-674-9050. Again, thank you for your time. Have a